Do you see opportunity in changing times? Stay tuned. Welcome to this week's edition of NoteSchool TV, where, well, every week we bring you the most amazing content and, well, the most amazing guests as well. This week is our monthly update, and Eddie and I are going to, well, we've got a lot to say today. But before we do that, well, let's see. Would love for you to like what you see. Hit that like button. Make sure and subscribe to NoteSchool TV if you have not already done so. And then number 3, hit that bell notification. Yes, boom, hit it right now so that you will be notified when, well, every Wednesday at 11:05 Central Time, we go live. Also, make sure and send us your comments, guys. We love to hear from you. Keeps Eddie and I in the loop as far as what you guys are thinking, what you think of the episodes, and so on. So please continue to send in your comments. We love to read those. And finally, if you would like to learn more about what we do at NoteSchool, then simply go to noteschool.com/TV. So, since today is our monthly update, well, this is going to be all about news today and, what we've put together for you. So, with that, let's bring on, well, founder of NoteSchool, Chief Visionary Officer, my friend, Mr. Eddie Speed.
Hello, Joe.
Well, happy afternoon. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Afternoon for you. Still hadn't got quite there for me, right? You're Eastern
right.
Time.
Yep. I'm in Central. Florida and Eddie's in Texas.
our producer noticed that we have not been on the same show some, and that's Joe because we've been quite busy.
Yes.
So, quite a lot of change in the market. You know, I'm doing some stats right now. NoteSchool's class sales are up over 300%.
Yeah.
So apparently a lot of people want to know something about this today, right?
Well, Eddie, I think that we've done a really good job of you have for sure in leading us in the way of what's happening in the market and then the way to survive and thrive in a market that like we're going through today, right? That's what our message is all about.
Well, there's plenty of opportunity in disruptive markets. If you are unaware that a market is disruptive, that can be a problem.
That can be a problem.
So what we're trying to do today is to show you what is being disrupted so that we can then hone in on what we do and the steps that we take to do it. Joe, we got a lot of slides today. Let's bring it up.
Let's do it.
Joe has put together a killer presentation today. Seriously, like Joe, compliments to you, pal. You've done a good job. So let's talk about the housing market.
Let's do it. So, well, here we go, Eddie. This comes from Darren Bloomquist, who was a guest. He was our guest on the show a couple months ago. And Darren is with auction.com. Smart guy, Eddie.
He is. Yeah, and one thing that I think really, this is a heat map that really shows, Joe, the level of concern. I know there's a color code system to this, right?
Right here. Yep.
There it is. And so it shows red being the high and kind of the orange being moderate all the way to light blue, which is minimal. And bottom line is it's very interesting, but of course you see some things really jump out at you.
Yeah.
And Portland, of course, Denver, Seattle,
Portland, Denver, San Diego, San Francisco is really going through a big,
So a lot of changes in the market, and I was with a hedge fund guy this past weekend, and generally, and they are guys that make $1 billion bets.
Yes.
Like literally billions. And he basically said that they're looking for a range of a 5 to 12% decline in the resi market over the next 12 to 18 months. So if you're that doesn't mean that your market is exactly that, but that does mean that, the trees are going to grow the sky thing. People that bet a lot of money are not betting that at the moment. And you could be in a micro market where that's true, but it's less likely than it was, for sure.
Well, and Eddie, the analytics here from Darren are just saying that based on what they're seeing, the behavior from the auctions, that auction.com, that's what their read is, and that's a pretty accurate read of what's going on in the marketplace as far as what's being done at the foreclosure auctions.
Yeah. One thing that's interesting about Denver and West is they've already experienced a fairly substantial decline in the market. So a further decline is, I think that's other markets east are necessarily not seeing a giant decline yet. They've seen a slowing, they've seen a softening, but when you've already seen those markets that have already experienced a pretty tough time, saying there's more tough times to come, pay attention to that. So, all right, let's move on.
Let's move on. So pending home sales dropped to their lowest levels since the pandemic onset. So, Eddie, what Redfin is saying, I love Redfin, is that the median U.S. home price fell 3.3% in March to 400,528, largest year-over-year drop since 2012. And that was followed February. There was a 1.2 drop as well, which is the first annual drop since 2012. So, yeah, it's below the zero line there.
It's sliding.
Yep, here we are right here. Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
So we look at that, and then we look at the chart of the week, Eddie. So this is from the National Association of Realtors, and what this is saying is that the supply of houses that are on the market, and let me read a little excerpt from that. It says, as of February of 2023, the number of existing homes available for sale was 1.137 million. So a little over 1.1 million units compared to 936 million or 1,000 a year ago. So it's up a little bit, but it is so far down. The average between 2000 and 2019, almost 20 years, was just under 2.5 million. So we're nearly half still as far as the number of homes that are available, with the existing being in the blue and the new home sales that are being listed in the orange.
All right. So, Joe, we have a very interesting market.
We do. We
have one of the lowest levels of housing inventory available for sale that we've had in decades.
That's right.
All right. And it's the story of the virus, and it's certainly the story of the last, 24 months. But yet we have a declining real estate value.
Yeah.
Okay. So what that means is, Joe, is that we have a super low level of inventory and even a lesser level of demand.
Yes.
And what's causing that?
Well, the housing, the market sentiment, right? All-time low as Americans fret over mortgage rates and employment outlook, right? Yeah. It's edging back to an all-time low, according to Fannie Mae. And of course, the last time was during the Great Recession, worried about rising mortgage rates and unemployment. And markets are expecting more interest rate hikes from the Fed, which could keep the mortgage rates elevated. And that's a very volatile.
I'm gonna step out on the limb, Joe, because okay. I have some very good inside information, and I didn't get it off of Facebook. So I have information that says the mortgage rates are going to flatten, and then we're going to see a slide. And so I'm not saying that the people that are projecting 9% mortgage rates, the data sources that have a lot of information say that's not going to happen.
That's not true, yeah.
But here's the thing. The buyer sentiment outweighs every other variable that always makes sense. FOMO made the most impact when everybody wanted to buy, low buyer sentiment will also be the biggest impact. You can put market data and measure this and measure that and stuff, but when people are scared, they do what they do.
They do what they do.
And so understand, I'm stepping out on a limb here about the rates, but we have a disruptive market that is not going to be because of 12% interest rates.
Very true. I would 100% agree with that.
I usually don't get that strong about something, Joe, but I'm pretty confident that I'm saying I got good sources on this one.
Right. Well, even between 5 and 6, Eddie, it's still almost double what it was January of 2022, 14, 15,
And so you have escalated prices and escalated rates, and then all of a sudden people just lose their whim. It is a proven fact, Joe, that people, the percentage of their income that they're willing to risk drastically changes based on buyer sentiment.
Yeah.
So in boom markets, people might risk 35 to 40% of their income.
Right.
In recessionary markets, they might risk, 18 to 25% of their income. So that's a factor, and that's a proven statistic that has been proven over time.
It is, and that goes into what we're going to go into next, which is banks and lending. And well,
ain't nothing going on there, Joe. You don't even need to worry about it.
I get a ping about every 30 seconds. I finally had to turn off my other screen there because it never stops.
Well, one thing is, we've talked about this a lot, but mortgage credit availability, you guys can kind of see the line there and kind of highlight over to the left there. It was at about 185 before the virus started, Joe,
right,
and now it's at 100. And so you can kind of do the math here and figure out, we got a little situation. That's a pretty good line there, Joe. I'm fairly impressed that you could do that.
I know, right? I mean, I've been practicing a little bit.
A lot of gap between 2012 and now, huh?
Yeah, Eddie, in this drop here in 2012, I mean, we were still trying to figure out how to come out of that, the Great Recession.
I would say in all forms of credit, particularly all forms of mortgage credit, whether it's residential, whether it's commercial, whatever, the word of the day is going to be credit tightening.
We keep saying this, Eddie. Yep. Okay. So here's just some key facts here. Outlook for credit access. So there's the sentiment on the housing market and employment. Outlook for credit access hits record low, while inflation expectations continue to jump. I mean, we haven't gotten April's inflation number yet, but it's still at 5%. And the Fed keeps saying their key or their baseline needs to be at 2%. That's a big, big, big gap still.
Yeah, and we're heading into a market for a lot of variables: the condition of the mortgage industry overall, the condition of the banking industry. We're not seeing a loosening of credit. Now, they may change. You may be reading things that says, well, they've changed how they underwrite a loan, and so they're not. What they're saying is, Joe, on residential mortgages, they've stopped just using FICO banding as a pricing structure model. Well, that goes back to what we all did 20 plus years ago, which was graded credit. You didn't just FICO band. If you're a 721, you get a better rate than a guy that's a 681, right? They're measuring all of those variables. So that doesn't mean that we're going back to just grading loans, but I believe that's a lot more common sense than just FICO banding. Well, I've never been a fan of just FICO banding.
I haven't either, because bad things happen to good people every day. We know we had a pandemic, and there's job loss, employment, all of these things.
Joe,
that dings a person's credit.
Joe, my daughter a few years ago was an apprentice as a ballet dancer. They don't make a lot of money, okay?
Right.
She had a 780 credit score because she had 2 credit cards and she paid them on time.
That's right.
Okay. Well, that's different measure than saying she could go out and buy a $500,000 house.
There you go.
So understand, enough said on that. But credit tightening is a variable. Joe, let's look at some of the other things in the market. And
I thought
go ahead.
This is the big banks. Open the first quarter of 2023, and you see you've got J.P. Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, and you've got PNC here. And so I'm going to read you a couple numbers here. So J.P. Morgan Chase, first quarter of this year, top of the heap there, $12.6 billion in profits, which is up 52% from last year. Wells is at $5 billion in profit. Citi is at $4.6 billion, and PNC, which is really it's a mega regional bank, and they're up $1.7 billion, Eddie. So even though you see we're seeing regionals having some challenges, we'll show why they're having those challenges. But certainly, the big banks are they're pulling it in.
The big banks are the star in the market of the banking world, but excessively by far at the moment. Big banks are the star in the market. Joe, let's talk about some of the other side.
Well, so Eddie, this is the deposit picture. So this is July 1st of 2022 up
so
here.
This is for the large banks, right?
The large banks, that's right, the large banks. And so as we come down the line here, you can see that, well, that's about almost $2 trillion in deposit balances that have declined. Okay.
But over a pretty long period of time.
Yeah. But
back last July, right?
Right. But in a month, $510 billion since March. And then we look at the smaller banks, the regionals, and my God, Eddie, that looked like that mortgage credit availability index piece, right?
Yeah, that red line Joe just drawn there showed you the amount of deposits that small banks have lost, and pretty measurable thing there, right?
And Eddie, that's not billion.
That's it. That's with a T, isn't it?
That's 1.3 trillion. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that painted a pretty good picture of what's happening out there. But then we look at this, and that is $1 trillion, Eddie. And that's Hank Paulson, who is a pretty smart guy. He was the Secretary of Treasury during the Great Recession. And what he's saying is $1 trillion has likely exited U.S. banking as a system as America risks global economic isolation. This is not only from Americans. This is from countries that are from people all over the world that were keeping their money in U.S.
We weren't considered to be a safe place to put your money.
Yeah. So we've got to kind of keep an eye on where you put your money, right? I heard you say that yesterday afternoon, Eddie.
Yeah, no kidding.
Let's talk about the commercial market. Love those colors, man.
Yeah.
So, the commercial market is wobbling. Two of the largest players are feeling the pain of higher rates and tighter credit. These two big players, number one, would be the huge hedge fund Blackstone, billions and billions of dollars in money under management. And Brookfield Partners is one of the largest owners and managers of commercial properties, and especially office properties in the United States.
So, Joe, let me summarize what I think is a fair assessment of commercial overall. And I'm going to exclude industrial.
Right.
Because industrial it's not facing trouble. You've got the worst, which is office.
Mm-hmm.
You got the second worst, which is, strip center, like mixed use, not mixed use being necessarily residential. You've got multifamily, and you got storage. Now that may not encompass every commercial type of real estate out there, but we're going to say that in the sectors that we deal in, these asset classes are the most common.
Right.
All of them are in trouble as far as a decline in value, have already experienced a decline in value, even though they're not saying it on Facebook. and I'm pretty connected with people that are telling me the real skinny. And also the thing to come, and the big thing to come is two things. We have loans that are really limping and they have not ever been really gotten straightened up. You got big vacancy, and there's people that haven't gotten their loans straightened up because their tenants aren't paying.
Right.
Or the big thing, Joe, is obviously the giant amount of rate resets. These were variable rate mortgages that are now due for a rate reset. And so, Joe, we literally could do 3 hours on nothing but commercial.
Absolutely. It's a big deal. And this next piece here is really telling. If regional banks continue to fall, commercial real estate investors can plan on fewer and more expensive loans. Regional banks are losing deposits to the big banks. People are a little bit afraid, so they're moving their money into the bigger banks because, well, they're very profitable at this time, and much of that is being banned. But here's the telling piece on this. Altus Group reported that smaller bank lenders account for 67% of all commercial real estate lending, up from 56% 5 years ago.
So listen to this, guys. The daddy in commercial lending are small banks. Oh, Joe, that's the same small banks that have had all this giant decline in deposits?
Yep.
Is that the ones you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And we are now there's any Google search under the sun about the condition of commercial real estate is going to give you a very grim report. Mm-hmm. And they're the ones that have dominated the lending.
That's right.
So they've had a giant decline in deposits, which is eating into their liquidity.
Yes.
And now the feds are coming in and reevaluating what the condition of their loans really are. And they're forcing, Joe, write-downs.
Mark to market, right?
Market to market. So this is, as a really good friend of mine said about a week ago, it's not like the train is at the station and is deliberating leaving. The train has already left the station.
Yeah.
It's coming down the track. And we're just saying that we see big opportunities for those that are aware of it and know what to do about it.
That's right. And this also, the smaller banks, the regionals, are really the banks that promote the jumbo loans that are more than $726,000.
That's on residential.
And that's on residential. Yes.
They dominate the commercial market and they dominate the jumbo market.
And they do, and they make those rates really, really good for these jumbo borrowers because they will then bring in their other business. They're wealthier folks, so they'll bring more of their assets over. But that's been a problem for them as well because the sticky factor is not there. They'll get the great loan, and then they'll move their assets somewhere else after they get the loan. So anyway, just a thought. But that's on the residential side. That's right.
All right.
So let's look at the rental market. Well, let's see. Here we go, Eddie.
Post their first. It's going in the wrong direction here, Joe.
I may have to get a different color there, Eddie.
I just highlight that line. Highlight it in yellow so everybody.
Yeah, let's do that.
So listen, what we're saying is we're not laughing that this is, we got lots of landlord buddies. Their expenses have gone up drastically.
Yeah.
Their taxes and their insurance and other operational expenses, the cost to rent your property has gone up. Yeah. So when your rates went up and your expenses went up, then it was what you wanted to see. We call it a hedge against inflation.
That's right.
But now all of a sudden, when rates are going down, are your expenses going down? No. Is your taxes going down? Is your insurance going down? These are what landlords are fussing about.
Yes.
And so this Joe, I'm just going to say it. This is why so many people are showing up at NoteSchool.
That's right.
Right? So many people are showing up at NoteSchool because 2 years ago, all those people were like betting on rental property being the cat's meow. And now all of a sudden, for all the reasons that we've been saying, you're like, well, Eddie said there was weird. It's like over like a 323% increase in people that bought a NoteSchool class. Q1 of this year versus Q4 of last year. Literally, I'm not exaggerating. Over 300% increase. And people want to know why. And I say the market's talking.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, we tend to do really good in disruptive markets.
Yes. Market voids.
Market voids.
That's it. Well, and to further continue that is, Eddie, more than 8 million people, 8,070,524 people ages 18 or older in the U.S. aren't caught up on their rent payments. So that's 13.17% of the nation's adult renters live in households that rent's behind, right?
Yeah.
That's a big number.
And anybody that I know that's out there in the market, both multifamily and anybody that's telling the truth, okay? Mm-hmm. There's always the outlier, the one guy that hasn't experienced one single tenant slipping.
Absolutely. We've talked to those people.
Oh, yeah, trust me. They always act like that's the case. But the truth of the matter is, I'm not saying that there isn't an instance of that. Statistically, that's just not true. Statistically, people have suffered. But we do know that operational expenses of running a rental have gone way up.
Yeah.
All right, Joe, let's wrap this up.
Let's do it. So, guys, these are the states, right, that are largest share of people behind on rent. Lending Tree got this result here. New York, Nevada, Louisiana, Rhode Island. You can read those there and see what they are, but that's what it looks like. Top 10.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that there's not problems in all states, but that means these are the hottest states with the most problems. So good research there.
Absolutely.
By the way, I just want y'all to know that Joe Varnadore has built this slide deck. He pays attention to this all the time. Now, we all are feeding stuff to him.
Yes,
but putting that slide deck together, Joe, you've done a pretty good picture to pull something together in a 30-minute summary. Let's talk about foreclosures.
Yeah, so more Americans are losing their homes as foreclosures, well, according to Bloomberg, on U.S. properties rise. So, Eddie, talk a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, listen, we've had a pin-up inventory of foreclosures. This is just breaking the egg open.
Right.
This story is going to be the story. There's no doubt about it. Basically, the loans that are 90, according to Darren Bloomquist, who said this on this show, the loans that are 90 plus days delinquent, the average delinquency on a residential mortgage, 600 days delinquent.
Yes.
So we have and that's basically double what the normal is. So we have all this pinup inventory. We have a disruptive market. We have some lenders that are not in a good way, that are trying to go figure out how to sort through it. FHA is more than 10% of FHA loans are delinquent, and FHA has put some moratorium in place. Now, I don't think FHA does not dominate the residential lending market, but it does show you, FHA loan has a 10% delinquency. Now, Joe, let me ask you a question. Does that mean they might tighten credit up?
Yes, I think it does.
I think you can bet the ranch on that one, huh?
Eddie, we wouldn't talk about all of this, Eddie, if we didn't have, let's look at this next slide here. So we've got a lot to say about this, Eddie.
Yeah, so this is basically what we're saying is when credit is cheap and easy, conventional lending dominates. When it's not, then seller financing comes and fills a gap. And you see that right there. The dark blue is alternative financing.
Yes.
Seller financing is definitely a gap filler. And so we're going to see we're going to see this gigantic insurgence in creative financing, this gigantic insurgence of seller financing. We've already seen it.
Yeah.
But we're saying, okay, well, is that just temporary? Is it all going to be back by June and nobody's going to be worried about it again? And the answer is that's not the case. We are going to see a flattening in rates.
We are. Yeah.
So I don't want to paint a picture that we think rates are fixing to go to 10%. There's no data out there that supports that. And we are, by the end of the year, probably going to see a slide in rates, right? But it's not going to be enough to save all the problems that we've described. Yeah. Joe, we make money understanding when and what to act in disruptive markets. Amen. Since 1980, that's been my card game. It's been since 1990, that's been your card game.
That's right.
So,
well,
go ahead.
I don't know. Our motto at NoteSchool is we show you how to close more deals. And there are going to be so many more deals to close out there because let's just face it, Eddie, we're just helping people. That's all we're doing.
Guys, we tried to put together in about 30 minutes a story that paints a picture of data about the market. This isn't just Joe and Eddie's opinion. We're just supporting our views with what the analysts and all the people in the market are the information that they are doing to make the predictions that they're making. If this show is of valuable to you, share it with some friends, put it on your Facebook page and share it, or share it out there. We just want the information out there. If NoteSchool can never help you other than just giving you some valuable information, we're good with that. We'd love to hang out with you and do all kind of stuff. But by the way, you don't have to do any of that. Just come hang out with us and let us talk about what the market is. Appreciate your comments, your likes. And Joe, I'm out of soap.
Very good. So guys, listen, you want to learn more about what we do at NoteSchool? We'd love to have you in one of our master classes. And Eddie, I think those master classes, I think that, that you and Max do. Max Keller, our chief market officer. Well, I think they're pretty low cost, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll be very kind to you if you want to come hang out at a master class. So I don't think you can beat the price.
Yeah.
But we do that for a reason, because we want to come give you some value, and we're going to show you in these master classes what specific actions we take, what a real deal looks like in spite of the market, and how we are. It very clearly shows you why we're excited. So if that's of interest to you, then Joe, you can give them the link and put it in the show notes and stuff, and we'll figure out what the next steps might look like.
Sounds good. Eddie, thank you so much. All of you, thank you for watching. And again, as Eddie said, please send us your comments and share this. We give you our permission to share this with as many people out there. We'll just go out and we'll help people one at a time, right? Thanks so much. We'll see you next time on NoteSchool TV.
See you later.
Have a great week. Bye.